Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 2, Episode 27, The Mind and the Matter, written by Rod Serling and starring Shelley Berman as Archibald Beechcroft. That's an interesting name. Now, this episode has a decent premise. It's not too bad, but unfortunately, until the last 5 minutes, doesn't really do anything with it. Now, this isn't a terrible episode, it's watchable, but it has its issues, which I will get into now. So we start on, I think it's a subway, and there's a lot of people there, and we see one man in between them all, our main character Archibald, and he looks kind of annoyed. Then we go to an office building, and our buddy Archibald gets a drink spilled on him, and he goes into the restroom, and he's annoyed by another man, Mr. Rogers, who, in fairness, is pretty annoying. The guy's trying to tell him what to eat and all kinds of other things. And this Rogers guy is pretty much a pest. And Beechcroft tells him, what's really annoying is all the people that are around, the crowds, and, people like you. We can tell now that Archibald just doesn't like people. So he goes to lunch, and the man who spilled the coffee on him saves him a seat. And he also, to try and make it up to him, buys him this book called The Mind and the Matter, just like the title of the episode. And Beechcroft at first kind of dismisses it, but he really starts to get into this book. He's reading it at home, in the subway, everywhere he goes. And he decides that he agrees with some of the things in this book, and that if he concentrates hard enough, he will be able to get rid of a person. So this annoying lady starts banging on the door, and he makes her disappear. So Archibald's now pretty excited. His mood has definitely turned for the better, and he decides if I can get rid of her, I can get rid of everybody except myself, and things will be a lot better. Well, Archibald doesn't realize that when you have these kind of superpowers, you need to use them for good. But he'll find out. So we go to the next day, and he concentrates, and he does get rid of everyone. Just like that, they're gone. Now, here's where a lot of the main issues with the episode really come in my opinion. He just starts walking around for what seems like forever. This part of the episode's definitely padded. And he's just walking by himself, and you can tell he's pretty happy with what he's done, but he's not really doing anything. Then he starts seeing images of himself in his glasses and in other places. He's hearing voices and seeing himself, and he's talking to himself about how he's bored and lonely, but, so then he decides, he's got to do some other things to keep things interesting. And some of the things he chooses to do, he creates an earthquake and a storm. He draws a mustache on a poster of a lady. Like, if you had the power to concentrate and make anything happen, these are the things you would choose to do. Once again, somebody that has so many possibilities with their powers, and they do things that don't make sense. I mean, why would you create a storm? There's no reason to do that. But anyway, he keeps talking to himself when he gets home, and he decides, well, maybe I do need another person or a few people around, because it is getting kind of boring, really, you think? So he has this genius idea, and I do like this concept in the episode of making everyone himself. He'll just create himself over and over as everybody. So he does, and everybody is him, men, women, everybody is him the next day. And he starts to see through this that he can be just as annoying as all the other people are. And he figures out, hey, maybe I'm not so great. Maybe I'm part of the problem. So, of course, the problem was him. He couldn't put up with anybody else, but he didn't look at himself. So that's a relevant issue. And so we go back to him at work, and everything is back to normal, and the same man spills a drink on him again, but this time our buddy Archibald has much more understanding for the gentleman. So he learned a lesson, Now, I actually really liked the last 5 minutes of this episode, and I like the idea of him creating all the images as himself and learning from it. The problem is this happens very late in the episode. I think if the whole episode would have focused on this concept, it could have been really, really good and really, really amusing. But this episode just takes way too long to get going, and a lot of the things he uses his powers for in the middle of the episode have no purpose and make no sense. So the episode feels very padded, and I think they did have enough of a story here for 25 minutes. For some reason, they just chose not to use it in the end instead of going with less interesting concepts throughout most of the episode. But overall, I think the end of this episode saves it, and the episode isn't awful, it's watchable. It just doesn't really hit its mark fully. So I'm going to give The Mind and the Matter a 2 out of 5. And, you can watch it if you want. It's kind of meh. It's okay. So 2 out of 5 for The Mind and the Matter. And as always, thanks for watching.